Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon, bringing clarity to the unidentified and what we like to call the phenomenon. If you're somebody who's passionate and interested in the UFO subject regarding UFOs, contact, and related phenomenon, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing the video. Now today's video, I wanted to discuss dream time contact, and those are that's contact events and close encounters during the dream state. And this is a somewhat controversial issue and probably a less understood issue because of the nature of the experiences. Now I want to give a disclaimer here at the beginning and just say that not everybody who says they have a close encounter of the fourth kind or abduction has had such an experience. And that's not to undermine what they did experience, but there are such things as sleep paralysis, nightmares, and hallucination during the hypnagogic state, where in the hypnagogic state you're more suggestible to the fluctuations in your awareness and subtle impressions you might have. Now, getting to the actual contact aspect of the dream state, there's many ways in which contact can occur during the dream state, and hopefully, and not always is the case, unfortunately, that you will have some kind of validation on whether or not the experience was a genuine experience or kind of manifestation in your mind and your awareness of a contact experience. Now, these experiences can range from having a simple, you're just sleeping and having a dream, and you have a sighting in your dream. In your dream you have a UFO sighting, and then you wake up, or you can come into encounters with so-called UFO occupants, UFO intelligence, the actual beings. Whether there's a communication or not, you might just see them and that's it, or you might have an experience where there's a whole transmission of impressions and telepathy and things of that nature. There's also something that is very strange, which I've experienced, which is almost like a simulation, where if it was a genuine dream time contact, the intelligence can put you through almost a simulation of sorts, which is extremely lucid and vivid. I mean, it's almost like you can't tell the difference between reality and as far as you're concerned, that's reality at the moment until you wake up. Like a very lucid dream. Although sometimes in a lucid dream you're aware that you're in such a state. Now, there's also such things as, where you have a kind of sighting or impression, and you go out, days on, and you actually have that same experience in real life. So, say you're sleeping, you had the dream time contact, you're at some kind of contact site, and you see some kind of visual display, a UFO sighting, a close encounter of the third kind, or even a CE5, and during that actual sighting, days or weeks later, even the same day later in the day, you see exactly what you saw in the dream state, and at that point it's really hard to determine whether that was some form of precognition or if it was shown to you by UFO intelligence. Again, this is dream time contact is one of the even lesser understood phenomena regarding contact. So that's just something we're going to have to deal with for now and continue to observe and try to learn as time goes on. But I will share an experience here because it was so profound, and it clearly demonstrates a level of high strangeness that occurs during contact, and even that is included in dreamtime contact. That includes high strangeness, synchronicities to an extreme, and up into including an actual sighting that occurs that is completely in sync with the high strangeness and the synchronicities. Now, this was about in 2007. I was at one of my jobs, and there was an overnight shift I was working, and one of my coworkers, who doesn't talk about any of this kind of stuff, didn't know I was interested or involved in any of this kind of subject or work, and somebody who's very conservative and reserved, and doesn't necessarily talk about these kind of subjects at all, way off their radar. So I'm working, and this gentleman comes up to me, one of my coworkers, and he said, "Hey, did you hear about those UFOs in Mexico?" And I was kind of taken back, but at the same time, I was like, "This is kind of weird. He's mentioning this because he's super conservative, doesn't talk about any kind of subjects like this." So I thought it was strange a little, but I kind of just brushed it off. I was like, "Yeah, no, I didn't hear about it because I didn't." So then I went home. It was an overnight shift, so I went home, went to sleep, and during my dream, and again, this was so lucid, I could literally feel the sensations physically, at least in my mind. I was perceiving it as if it was a real waking experience. So I'm driving in my car in this dream, and I'm driving down this road. It was a road around where I grew up, and it's at nighttime. And I see this orange disc, almost like an orange flying saucer that's made of like plasma light and electricity, but it's just like 20 feet above my car. And in my dream, I'm kind of like freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God," you know what I mean? I'm like, "What?" Again, I'm not, it was more reactionary, and I could feel electrical pulses through my body. And I can, like, literally, it was the static from the actual craft. You can kind of almost hear a low hum, and I could feel the vibration and the electricity through my body, and I'm driving, trying to get away from this object. Again, it was reactionary. I wasn't actually thinking, "Oh, why am I trying to escape from this, or drive away from this thing?" It was just completely reactionary, and I'm in the dream, and I'm trying to drive away, and I can't get away from this object, and I'm driving, and this goes on for maybe 2 minutes of me in the dream, freaking out, driving, feeling these electrical impulses through my body, and hearing the low hum, and this thing is just following me. And then I snapped awake. After, at least in that experience, it felt like a few minutes had occurred. And then somebody, a family member, I was getting ready to go out, just to go somewhere to get something to eat, because I just woke up, and my family member comes up to me and they said, "Did you hear about the UFO sightings in Mexico?" And at that point, I was like, "What the frig? What the heck?" You know what I mean? I was like, this is too strange. This is unbelievable at this point. The guy says something to me at work. I have this insane dream, and now this person is talking about the same sighting in Mexico, which I did not even hear about. So I'm like, screw this. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, just trying to get the heck out of my house. And I was going to go get food. So I get in my car and I start driving, and it's about 3:30 p.m., 4 p.m. And I start driving just a few hundred feet, down the road from my house, and again, broad daylight, 3:30, 4 p.m. afternoon in the summer. This is around June or July. And all of a sudden, perfect clear blue sky, daylight, I see like a fireball in the sky. Not quite the size of a dime, but very large, larger than any star or planet or anything like that. And again, broad daylight. And it was just a ball of fire hanging there stationary. And at that point, considering everything that had just occurred, I'm like, that's an effing UFO. And as soon as I thought that in my mind, it began to move across the sky. And, from being stationary, as soon as I had that perception, it began to move. And I was just freaking out at that point. Because because of the sequence in which it had occurred, really, it was more baffling than maybe even the sighting itself. Is just the sequence and the way everything had occurred that had led up to it. It just kind of all hit me at once at that point, and I tried to chase it, and eventually it got out of my sight, and I saw this fireball moving through the sky, just smoothly and cleanly, completely silent, and that was that. And that's one of those paradigm shifters or game changers in awareness, which really wakens you up to these kind of possibilities of a greater reality, and during the contact experience, and even just investigating UFOs and understanding the UFO reality. So that is one such instance where I had there was dreamtime contact involved, and because of the sequence and everything and the way everything occurred, and because I had the validation of that daytime sighting directly after, I do consider that a valid dreamtime contact experience, again, because of the circumstances. If the other things had not occurred, I would have been more skeptical and questioned it more, but after that experience, there's no doubt in my mind that there was some kind of consciousness interaction that occurred leading to that sighting. I mean, it's just too overwhelming. Any other conclusion really doesn't make sense. Now, I will bring up one other instance that is strange, that doesn't have as much validation, but is peculiar and stood out to me. Is that it was a real simple one. I went to sleep. I had this, all of a sudden I'm in this field, and a flying saucer lands, right? And like a hatch opens and somebody's coming out, and I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be a being, and and some old man walks out in a silver suit, and I'm thinking, even in the dream, I had the awareness to say, some old guy. I'm expecting, some kind of little being, or one of these tall blondes, or something that fits into the category of UFO lore, I guess, And it was just this old dude, so I'm like, I was kind of like, had the awareness of that in my dream, and I thought it was strange, but he looked right into my eyes, and it was bizarre. And then I snapped out of the dream. I woke up, and I went onto my computer because I said, I'm going to research, specific topic. And I go online to look up a specific case, and it's something I had not really truly investigated and looked into before. But as I'm looking up this case and watching this documentary, the same I see in the documentary is this same exact person, right? This alleged UFO occupant, and it's the same old guy, the same old man, looks exactly like him, and it was just like a high strangeness, bizarre kind of thing. Now I can't necessarily say that was an actual Dreamtime contact experience, but it was peculiar, and there seemed to be some kind of awareness or consciousness connection to that. And there's been many other instances where I would see something in a dream, like a CE5 event of sorts, and at that point I had many CE5s, so I kind of knew what to expect. But some of them were uncanny in the sense that I would have the dream, and then later that night or in the following days, I had like the exact same kind of sighting during a CE5. Again, could be coincidence, but it was peculiar to me. So that is just some outline of Dreamtime contact and some examples of how it can occur. And I know that many people that have had contact or UFO sightings or encounters have experienced these kind of Dreamtime contact scenarios. And again, sometimes it's really bizarre in that they seem like simulations, and I don't know if that's the phenomenon trying to prepare us in a way, trying to gauge our reactions, teach us something. I'm not really sure, but it is a very interesting phenomenon and one of the lesser understood phenomenon, and something we're gonna have to review and observe and collect information on as time goes. But thank you for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.